Welcome back to ConfessTV, where real people tell their most shocking stories. I'm your host, and today's confession will absolutely destroy you. This is the story of Sarah, a woman who thought she had the perfect marriage until she made one devastating mistake. She trusted her childhood best friend. What you're about to hear is a tale of betrayal so deep, so calculated, that it will make you question everyone in your life. Sarah's story shows us how the people we love most can sometimes be the ones who hurt us the worst. If you're new to ConfessTV, this is where we share real confessions from real people, stories that are raw, unfiltered, and sometimes hard to believe. Make sure to subscribe and hit that bell because these stories will stay with you long after you finish watching. Before we dive into Sarah's confession, I have to warn you. This story involves betrayal, heartbreak, and revenge that went too far. If emotional content affects you deeply, maybe save this one for when you're in the right headspace. Are you ready? Because Sarah's story is about to change how you look at friendship forever. Sarah was living what most people would call the perfect life. At 46, she'd been happily married to her husband, Mark, for 8 years. They had a beautiful home, stable careers, and what everyone saw as an unbreakable bond. Sarah truly believed she'd found her soulmate. But there was always one missing piece in Sarah's heart: her childhood best friend, Emma. These two had been inseparable from age 5 until Sarah turned 18. They were the kind of friends who shared everything: clothes, secrets, dreams about their futures. They made those childhood promises that they'd be best friends forever. Life had other plans. When Sarah's family moved away for her father's job in 1995, the girls lost touch. This was before social media, before smartphones. Staying connected across states was nearly impossible for teenagers. They tried with letters and phone calls, but eventually, life pulled them in different directions. For 30 years, Emma existed only in Sarah's memories. Sometimes she'd wonder what happened to her childhood sister, but she'd built a new life with Mark and was genuinely happy. Then, 2 years ago, everything changed when Emma sent Sarah a Facebook message. When Sarah saw Emma's name pop up in her messages, she couldn't believe it. Here was this massive piece of her childhood reaching out after 3 decades. Emma's message was heartbreaking. She was going through a terrible divorce, struggling financially and dealing with severe depression. The confident, bubbly girl Sarah remembered had been replaced by someone broken and desperate. During their video calls, Emma would cry constantly, talking about how lonely she felt and how she'd made so many wrong choices in life. She'd tell Sarah she wished she could go back to when they were kids and everything was simple. Sarah's heart broke for her old friend. She told Mark all about Emma, showing him childhood photos and sharing stories about their adventures. Mark was incredibly supportive, encouraging Sarah to help Emma however she could. He seemed genuinely excited to meet this important person from Sarah's past. After months of these emotional video calls, Sarah made what she now calls the worst decision of her life. She invited Emma to come stay with them for a few weeks. "Come visit us," Sarah told her. "Meet Mark, see our home. Let us take care of you while you get back on your feet." Emma's reaction was intense. She cried with gratitude and said she couldn't wait to meet the man who had made Sarah so happy. Looking back, Sarah realizes there was something in Emma's voice when she said that, something that should have been a warning. The visit begins. Emma arrived on a Friday evening in March, and at first everything seemed magical. The two women stayed up late sharing memories, laughing about their teenage years and catching up on 3 decades of life. Mark was the perfect host, cooking elaborate meals, listening to their stories, and making Emma feel completely welcome in their home. But within a few days, Sarah started noticing things that made her uncomfortable. Emma had packed an entirely different wardrobe than what she'd been wearing during their video calls. Gone were the casual, frumpy clothes. Instead, she'd brought tight dresses, low-cut tops, and outfits that showed off her figure. She was doing her makeup every morning like she was going somewhere special, not just hanging around the house. The scent of expensive perfume filled their home. More concerning was how Emma constantly found ways to be alone with Mark. When Sarah took a shower, Emma would offer to help Mark prepare dinner. When Sarah had to run errands, Emma would stay behind to rest and recover. She asked Mark to show her around their neighborhood while Sarah worked from home, and these walks seemed to get longer each day. But the most painful part was how Emma started undermining Sarah in subtle ways. She'd make comments in front of Mark about how Sarah was always the messy one when she left dishes in the sink. She'd bring up embarrassing childhood stories, but frame them as loving teasing. Stories about Sarah forgetting important events or making silly mistakes. Mark would laugh at these stories, and each time he did, Sarah felt a sick knot form in her stomach. 3 weeks into Emma's visit, Sarah couldn't ignore her instincts anymore. Emma and Mark had developed an easy intimacy that felt wrong for two people who had just met. They shared inside jokes that Sarah wasn't part of, exchanged meaningful glances across the room, and seemed to communicate without words. Emma's criticism of Sarah became more direct. She'd tell Mark things like, "You're so patient with her. I remember when Sarah forgot my birthday party when we were 12 and didn't even apologize." Or, "Mark, you're such an amazing cook. Sarah could barely make toast when we were kids." When Sarah finally confronted Emma privately, asking why she was saying these things in front of her husband, Emma's response chilled her to the bone. Emma looked at her with an expression Sarah had never seen before. Cold, calculating, almost predatory. Then she smiled sweetly and said, "Oh, Sarah, you're being way too sensitive. I'm just sharing memories. Don't you want Mark to know the real you?" That phrase haunted Sarah. The real you. As if Emma knew something about her that Mark didn't. As if she was slowly revealing Sarah's true nature to her own husband. The atmosphere in the house became tense and uncomfortable. Sarah found herself walking on eggshells in her own home, afraid of doing anything that Emma might criticize in front of Mark. The following week, Sarah had to attend a mandatory work conference in the neighboring city. Every instinct told her not to go. Something felt wrong about leaving Emma and Mark alone together. But Emma insisted she should attend, practically pushing her out the door, saying she and Mark would be perfectly fine and might just order pizza and watch movies. Sarah left Friday morning, planning to return Saturday evening. But the conference ended earlier than expected, and she decided to surprise her husband and friend by coming home Saturday afternoon instead. She walked into her house around 2 p.m., calling out cheerfully that she was home early. The house was eerily quiet. Then she heard voices coming from upstairs. Intimate, hushed voices that made her blood run cold. Sarah climbed those stairs with her heart pounding so violently she thought it might burst from her chest. The sounds were coming from her bedroom, her marital bedroom. She pushed the door open just a crack and witnessed the destruction of her entire world. There, in her bed, in her house, were her husband of 8 years and her childhood best friend, completely lost in each other. But what she heard was even worse than what she saw. Emma was whispering, "I love you so much more than she ever could. We're perfect together, Mark. We should have found each other years ago." And Mark, her Mark, who had promised to love and cherish her, replied, "I never knew it could feel like this. What I had with Sarah, it was just settling. This is real love." Sarah stood frozen in that doorway, listening to them make plans for their future together, when she'd be out of the picture, where they'd live, how they'd build their perfect life on the ashes of her marriage. Sarah spent that night in a hotel room, crying until she had no tears left and planning what she would say. The next morning, she returned home to find Emma and Mark making breakfast together, with a casual intimacy that made her physically ill. "We need to talk," Sarah announced, "all three of us, right now." The color drained from Emma's face, but instead of shame, Sarah saw defiance in her eyes. Mark couldn't even meet her gaze. What followed was the most devastating conversation of Sarah's life. Emma didn't apologize. She became angry at being caught. With shocking audacity, she told Sarah that what she and Mark shared was real love, and that Sarah should gracefully step aside. "You don't understand," Emma said, her voice filled with conviction rather than remorse. "Mark and I have a soul connection that you could never comprehend." What you two had was just routine, comfort, settling for less. What we have is passion, destiny. I've been searching for this kind of love my entire life. Then Mark spoke up, and his words shattered what was left of Sarah's heart. He asked her for a divorce. Right there in that moment, surrounded by the evidence of their betrayal, he asked his wife to step aside so he could be with her best friend. "I'm sorry, Sarah," he said, finally looking at her, "but I can't live a lie anymore. What Emma and I have discovered, it's what I've been missing without even knowing it. I owe it to both of us to be honest." Sarah immediately kicked them both out of her house, but the damage was irreversible. During the brutal divorce proceedings that followed, she discovered the true depth of their betrayal. Through recovered text messages and emails, Sarah learned that Emma and Mark had been planning this destruction from Emma's second day in their home. The most devastating message was one Emma had sent to Mark. "She's so trusting, so naive. This is going to be easier than I thought. She has no idea what's coming." Mark had been sharing intimate details about their marriage with Emma. Private conversations, Sarah's insecurities, her fears, even details about their intimate life. Emma had used every piece of information to position herself as everything Sarah wasn't. This wasn't a spontaneous affair or a moment of weakness. This was a calculated, methodical destruction of Sarah's life by the two people she trusted most in the world. The divorce was vicious. Mark fought for half of everything, including the house that Sarah had purchased with her inheritance from her grandmother. Emma actually had the audacity to attend some of the court hearings to support Mark. Mark and Emma married just 6 months after the divorce was finalized, but their fairy tale didn't last long. Through mutual friends, Sarah learned that their perfect love had quickly soured. They fought constantly, and Emma developed severe trust issues. Apparently, she couldn't stop wondering if Mark would do to her what he'd done to Sarah. The betrayal destroyed more than just Sarah's marriage. It shattered her ability to trust. She found herself questioning every relationship, analyzing every friendship for signs of hidden agendas. The woman who had once opened her heart freely became guarded and suspicious. Sarah spent months in therapy, working through the trauma of being betrayed by not just her husband, but by someone she'd considered a sister. The pain from Emma's betrayal cut even deeper than Mark's because of their history, their shared childhood, the sacred trust that had existed between them. 2 years later, Sarah is still rebuilding her life. She's learned that healing isn't a straight line. Some days she feels strong and grateful to be free of toxic people. Other days she feels empty and struggles with loneliness. She's slowly learning to trust again, but admits it's the hardest thing she's ever had to do. Sarah's story serves as a chilling reminder that sometimes the people who know us best are the ones most capable of destroying us. They know exactly which buttons to push, which insecurities to exploit, and which dreams to shatter. But Sarah refuses to let their betrayal define her. She's choosing to heal, to grow, and to believe that not everyone is capable of such calculated cruelty. Her journey from victim to survivor continues, one day at a time. That's Sarah's story, a devastating tale of betrayal that shows us how the people we trust most can sometimes be our greatest enemies. Her courage in sharing this painful experience reminds us that healing is possible, even after the deepest betrayals. If you're going through something similar, know that you're not alone. Betrayal by those closest to us leaves scars that run deep, but it doesn't have to be the end of your story. Thanks for watching ConfessTV. If you have a story you'd like to share, reach out to us. Remember to subscribe for more real confessions from real people, and I'll see you next time.